All right, we're on the third page of notes, and we have more multiple choice questions. And number 12 says, in quadrilateral ABCD, each diagonal bisects opposite angles. Each diagonal bisects opposite angles, and we know that that happens in a rhombus and in a square. And then they tell us that the measure of angle DAB equals 70 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a rhombus and a square and label them. And they're talking about angle DAB. Angle DAB is this angle. DAB is this angle. We know in a square that that's a 90-degree angle. Where in a rhombus, that could be a 70-degree angle. So I'm going to go ahead and say that it's got to be a rhombus, choice 3. Number 13. Which quadrilateral has diagonals that are always perpendicular bisectors of each other? Okay. Diagonals that are perpendicular happens in a square and in a rhombus, but rhombus isn't a choice, so I'm going to go ahead with number 1. It's the only shape that has diagonals that are perpendicular to each other, and they would cut each other in half or bisect. Okay, number 14. Which quadrilateral must have diagonals that are congruent and perpendicular? Diagonals that are congruent would happen in a square. And I would say rectangle, but that's not a choice. And I would also say isosceles trapezoid, but that's also not a choice. So it's got to be a square. The diagonals are congruent and they would form right angles in the middle. Number 15. Given 3 distinct quadrilaterals, a square, a rectangle, and a rhombus, which quadrilaterals must have perpendicular diagonals? So perpendicular diagonals, remember, happens in a rhombus and also a square. Are the only 2 shapes where it happens, where you get the right angles in the middle. Okay, so a rhombus only, a rectangle in the square. No, not a rectangle. A rhombus and a square. Yep. And the rectangle, the rhombus, and the square. We know it's not a rectangle. Okay, so choice 3. Number 16, in a certain quadrilateral, 2 opposite sides are parallel. 2 opposite sides are parallel. If I look at all my choices, 2 opposite sides are parallel. 2 opposite sides are parallel. 2 opposite sides are parallel. And in a trapezoid, 2 opposite sides are parallel. The bases, top and the bottom. Okay. And the other 2 opposite sides are not congruent. The other 2 opposite sides are not congruent. Well, in a rhombus, it has a pair of parallel, okay? But they're saying that the other 2 sides are not equal. Well, rhombus, they are. In a parallelogram, if these are the 2 opposite sides that are parallel, the other 2 opposite sides are congruent. So it's not a parallelogram. In a square, if these are the 2 opposite sides that are parallel, the other 2 opposite sides are congruent. In a trapezoid, if these are the 2 sides that are parallel, these would be the other 2 opposite sides, and they are not equal. So it's got to be a trapezoid, okay? Because this happens in all of the other ones, right? But that side and that side do not have to have the same length. Okay, number 17. Last question. Which statement is false? All parallelograms are quadrilaterals. Every single parallelogram has 4 sides. That is true. They're looking for false. All rectangles are parallelograms. And that is true as well. All squares are rhombuses. A square is everything. So yes, it is a rhombus. That's also true. All rectangles are squares. That is not true. Okay. This, if I draw, is a rectangle. If I ask someone, is that a square? They would say, mm-mm. Okay. But every square is a rectangle. So got to be careful on the way they word it. All right. So number 4. All right. That concludes our Unit 6 on our quadrilaterals. All right. Hopefully you guys learned about the properties that make the shapes different. All right. I'll see you guys on the next day.